Grace to you and peace from God's beloved. Amen. So, question for you. Now that we're firmly settled into 2021, how's your hope for a better year than 2020 going? We seem to have gotten off on, shall we say, a rocky start. But I have to admit, I entered into 2021 with a certain degree of hope and optimism. The vaccine is being distributed, although not as quickly as most of us would like. It could look like the restrictions might be lifted if people do their part to keep the virus from spreading, but we know how that is working out. And people have kind of adjusted to this new normal that nobody likes. And we're hoping that some semblance of a return to normal might be around the corner. And people are still talking about what a return to normal might look like. Do we really want a return to that normal? People are asking. Or do we want to create something new and different with our lives and the community we all share? Is this a moment of opportunity to build a new way of living with different priorities, a reset? Will we be better able to distinguish between needs and wants in such a way as to reorient how we configure and shape our day-to-day existence? Did this COVID moment spark something in our humanity that would draw us closer to each other, remembering that the lives that separate us were put there to protect us against an invisible enemy, each other? Did the virus teach us that divisions and boundaries are human constructs and not divine edicts? Or will we just jump back into the way things were with just modest adjustments along the way? Will we just hop back into the old familiar routines, the old familiar habits, the old familiar patterns, the old familiar life? Can anything good come out of this virus? That's a familiar, if modified, question. Can anything good come from Nazareth? I'm guessing that Nathanael was joking when Philip told him where Jesus came from. But Philip took the question seriously. He answered, "Come and see." And he did. And Philip was blown away by what he saw in Jesus. And more than that, Philip was blown away by what Jesus saw in him. And Nathanael too, because Nathanael asked Jesus this: "Where did you know? Where did you come to know me?" Nathanael asks. And Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." And Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." And Jesus answered, "You believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree over there? You will see greater things than these." And then he said to him, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." In other words, your eyes will open to all sorts of possibilities in this world. You will see heaven and earth touch. You will see the power of God unleashed in ways you've always been blind to. Because Jesus called Philip and Nathanael not into a religion or a church. Jesus called Philip and Nathanael into a life that they could not have created on their own, a life that broadened beyond the borders of their limited vision. But here's the thing. Jesus already saw all of that in them. He just lit the match and he set the fire within them. And that's what he did with the rest of the disciples. He showed them what was in them. He showed them who they truly were and reminded them of what they truly wanted. They were beloved children of God, called to a life of the Spirit, which is a life that was beyond their own making, a life beyond their own dreaming. It wasn't a big, glamorous life. It wasn't a life of celebration and constant joy. It wasn't a life of celebrity and acclaim. It was a more authentic life. It was a life rooted in deepening their humanity so that they could see God more clearly. It was a life of connecting and giving. It was a life more bound by being who God created them to be rather than a life that has been imposed upon them. What I think is causing most in the trouble of the world these days is that people aren't living into their authentic selves. I think people are alienated from themselves as much as they are alienated from each other. The divisions in this world that seem to be growing within are an attempt to close that alienation. People are finding community among those who oppose the same things that they oppose, or who despise the same people that they despise, or who are triggered by the same triggers that trigger them. So communities that people are participating in, that people are creating, aren't communities of belonging or intimacy. They are communities of anger and destruction. And as social media algorithms keep showing us news items and posts that affirm what we already think, feel, and believe, the divisions widen. The alienation deepens. The alienation from each other and from our own very selves. And a lot of people are getting rich off of people's alienation. There's a lot of money out there to be made, keeping people like you, people like me, alienated and outraged. The life that Jesus calls us to is a life that deepens our humanity by reconnecting us with ourselves and with each other. It exposes the false narrative that the world is out to get me. It reveals the lie that if someone got something that I don't have, then I'm somehow been stolen from. Because when Nathanael tried to inflame the local divisions by asking, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Philip swatted the question away because he knew that that division wasn't real. It was created by human ego. Someone was benefiting from that division, and he wanted to heal it. Philip knew that life that Jesus called him to was to put aside his ego, because it was getting in the way of deeply connecting with himself and with others. So can anything good come from this virus? Maybe, possibly, I don't know. If we have eyes to see and ears to hear, maybe. This virus can be humanity's wake-up call to help us move toward who we truly are, and not just living as prongs, gears, and ratchets of an economic engine, but deeply interconnected, beautiful, yet broken, beloved human beings, created in love, for love. As I said, I don't know if anything good can come from this virus, but I do know that something good did come from Nazareth. And that goodness, that power, that strength, that Spirit of Jesus is living in you, helping you grow more deeply and more fully into your humanity. And as you grow more deeply and fully into your humanity, you grow closer to God, in whose image you were so lovingly made. And may this be so among us. Amen.